The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, thinking they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
Oh, man. Mid-November, 70 degrees again today. Yeah. Supposed to be pretty decent, too, tomorrow. Maryland against Michigan. I'll be there. High noon, College Park. Jim Harbaugh will not, as Michigan decided, we're just going to drop this thing, take the suspension. Hope they beat Ohio State without Harbaugh on the sidelines, and they wash their hands of it. At least the Big Ten does. Then it goes on to the NCAA. But by the time they catch up with Michigan, Jim Harbaugh will likely be back in the NFL. We'll spend some time on that. Charissa Thompson yesterday. She's now with Fox. She also I did not watch the pre or post game last night on Prime. I guess she's involved with that as well. But here it is, 9 o'clock on Friday morning. It's about 18 hours after this news of the podcast broke, where she was on with Barstool, and said that when she couldn't catch up with the coach at halftime when she was doing sideline work for Fox, she would just make it up. Yeah, made it up. Yeah. And didn't seem like a big deal to her to say that. She said that she had mentioned this before and it hadn't cost her job. I guess it went unnoticed. But this has been noticed, and it's been noticed by colleagues who are saying, whoa, 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 you just dumped all over me. You have just minimized my job. You have just said to the public, the sideline reporting job doesn't mean a damn thing, and I can just make it up if I want to. That was awful. And I'm shocked that we haven't heard anything from Fox. Now, got a long time to go until Sunday. She does like the pregame show, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning. And then during the game, she gives the updates on who's scoring and things like that. But there's really no need for her anymore. She has already told you that she had a job with Fox, which we were supposed to take seriously. And she made a total mockery of it. And terrific reporters like Lisa Salters, who spent many years as an ABC news reporter and now is doing the sidelines for ESPN and had to deal with, by the way, a life and death situation last year with Damar Hamlin. She's shocked by this. Tracy Wolfson does a great job for CBS. She's shocked by it. Just about everybody who has seen this or heard about this, who does this kind of work, and it is work, and it's important work, has looked at this and said, oh, my God. We'll see if Fox caves to the pressure. I think they're hoping this blows over. But we got another full day of the news cycle with this, and I would be surprised if I tuned to Fox on Sunday, which I will, obviously, with the Commanders playing their 1 o'clock game against the Giants, and see her still a part of their coverage. Maybe they'll suspend her. There's really no apology to make here. She said that while she was working, she lied. What, is she going to backtrack on the lie and say I was lying about the lie? I don't know. And then, to make matters worse, Erin Andrews, who's her buddy, they do a podcast together, she's still doing sidelines for Fox. Charissa Thompson has just told you, doesn't mean a thing. If she doesn't get what she wants, she can just make it up. I did. I made it up. Whew. We'll spend some time on that coming up. Also, RG3, come on. Enough already. He's begging on social media to become the Browns' starting quarterback. And if they don't want to make him the starting quarterback, well, he'll be happy to be the backup quarterback and deliver an MVP as he did with Lamar Jackson in 2018. Lately, he can't take enough credit for that. It was all about him mentoring Lamar on the way to being the MVP, and even went so far as to say that was an even bigger thrill than what he did as a rookie at Washington. I don't think so. But we'll play that for you coming up shortly, and I'll have some more thoughts on that as well. Ravens played last night, and you heard the game right here on ESPN 630. And if you don't have Prime, that was the only place to get it, because even the Baltimore station apps for this, I guess it's WBAL and there's 98 Rock, they carry the games. You couldn't get it on the app, and our app, we weren't allowed to carry it here. We had Virginia basketball, but on the actual radio, on 6:30 a.m., you could listen to the Ravens game last night, which is what I did, and I listened to them beat Cincinnati 34-20. Now there's bad fallout for both teams. Not as bad for the Ravens, at least in the standings, as they now have a 2-game lead with being the first team to get to 8 wins, and Cincinnati at 5-5. I don't know if they're necessarily out of it, but now they're 2.5 games behind the Ravens with 7 to play. So there's a look at this here where you go, this is really going to be really bad for Cincinnati. But on the other hand, it's not looking real good for the Ravens, even off the win. This was John Harbaugh after the game.
Unfortunately, on the negative side, Mark Andrews has a very serious ankle injury. It looks like a season-ending injury. So our prayers will be with Mark. Nobody cares more about the team and being there for the guys than Mark Andrews. So this is going to be hard for him, but we're going to be there for him all the way.
Yeah, now can they go all the way without Mark Andrews? That's going to be tough. He's not quite Travis Kelce, but in many ways to Lamar Jackson, he is his Travis Kelce. And yes, they have a good running attack. Their defense is tremendous. They held the Bengals to 2 of 11 on third downs, though Joe Burrow got knocked out of the game in the first half with a wrist injury, and his status upcoming is in question as well. He's been battling injuries all year long, and Cincinnati had been playing pretty well lately, but he's been playing hurt, and I think this was just an aggravation of an injury that he had coming in because he was spotted wearing a brace on his wrist when the team came to Baltimore yesterday or the day before. So Jake Browning was the quarterback in the second half. Not too bad. He was 8 of 14, did throw a touchdown, and had a rating of 93.8. But Jake Browning ain't Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow is the highest paid player in the NFL. They need to get him back and get him back soon if they have any chance of getting back into the playoff picture. And the Bengals will be hosting Pittsburgh a week from Sunday, which is going to be a huge game in the NFC North. The Ravens play this odd LA two-step where they go to the Chargers on the 26th, and then the Rams come to M&T Bank Stadium the week after that. Standings-wise, they're in very good shape. Barring a complete collapse, they're going to be in the playoffs. They're 8-3. But on the other hand, you're losing a key weapon for them, and you're going to have to run the ball a lot more, which they can do. They got 62 yards from Gus Edwards and 2 touchdowns last night. Keaton Mitchell is an interesting player. He also had 8 carries for 33 yards last night. They can do more with that. Odell Beckham may be rounding into form. He was their leading receiver last night with 4 catches. They got some more weapons, but when you have a team that likes to run the ball, plays defense, and a quarterback like Lamar Jackson who extends plays, you like to have, especially in the red zone area, Mark Andrews, a Pro Bowl tight end. And you just heard John Harbaugh say there that it doesn't look like he's going to be back the rest of the season. All right, to the college. And this was kind of a stunner yesterday. Just sitting around looking up things on the internet for the show today, and came across, wow, look at this. Michigan has decided to accept the ban, and Jim Harbaugh will not be with the team tomorrow as Maryland takes on Michigan at noon in College Park. More importantly, he will not be on the sidelines when they play Ohio State the week after. I guess the feeling among those who made this decision was, it's really stacked against us right here. That's part of it. And there also is a school of thought, though I'm not sure I buy it, but there's a school of thought where it's like, okay, let's just get this distraction out of the way. Obviously, we're going to be able to beat Maryland without Jim Harbaugh. We think we got a really good chance to beat Ohio State without Harbaugh, and then it's over. And then if they win, they play in the Big Ten championship game, and then they're in the playoff. Once they're in the playoff, it's out of the view of the Big Ten. They're not with it anymore, and neither is the NCAA. The NCAA is going to continue its investigation of the sign stealing, and they will probably have something next season. But next season, Jim Harbaugh is likely to be someplace else, maybe the Chicago Bears. This was the reaction on PTI last night. Tony Kornheiser, Mike Wilbon with the news that Michigan has decided to go ahead and accept the ban.
Head coach Jim Harbaugh will serve out his 3-game suspension, missing both Maryland and the Ohio State showdown. and the conference agrees to close its investigation. Well, what do you make of this development?
Well, Tony, I guess Michigan can say to itself and to Jim Harbaugh, look, let's just get beyond this. We're going to go pound Maryland on Saturday. We're going to get to Ohio State, and we got that game in Ann Arbor. And we shouldn't need you standing on the sideline to be as angry and as willful and as purposeful as we can in beating Ohio State. That is going to put us in the college football playoff, and then we won't have to deal with this anymore. You will have served your suspension, Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State. You'll be done with that, and on we go. We move on, not to Cincinnati, but we move on to the college football playoff. So let's just get this out of here, have as little drama as we can. And I don't know how accepting Harbaugh was. He was saying he wanted his day in court and he wanted to go and talk like, Tom Cruise, in some movie situation, which was, of course, silly. You want Harbaugh to be still focused during the week on what he can do. His team is ranked in a position to win a national title. That's a huge deal at Michigan still. It's a huge deal for the Big Ten. It's a huge deal for Harbaugh personally. So go do that, and this will be over.
Look, when I found out about this, I was stunned. The first note I took was 4 words long. Help me out here. I don't understand this at all. I mean, yeah, I was expecting Harbaugh tomorrow to talk and talk at great length, and now he's not going to do that. If I heard you correctly, you made it seem like if he's not on the sideline against Ohio State, just because it's in Michigan, that's going to be a win. I don't believe that.
Not just because, but partially.
I don't believe that. I can't believe he doesn't want to coach us. So I'm trying to understand, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm trying to understand what happened here. My first reaction would be the Big Ten showed Michigan and Harbaugh a preponderance of evidence that made them fold their tent and walk away. But by the same token, the Big Ten said it did not connect this with Harbaugh directly. So if
it was a school
if it didn't do that, why are they doing this? And then I thought, Mike, Michigan and Harbaugh are settling. Who settles in life? People that settle don't think they can win. People that are guilty sometimes settle, or people that may be leaving this school to go to the NFL might consider settling. I continue to use the word stunned. I am stunned by this, never expected it at all, and I'm looking for the reasons why it happened.
Because, Tony, the battle is something they don't have to win. They want to win the war, which at Michigan is winning a national championship. Ohio State has done that a lot more recently. Michigan wants its eye on that prize. So you said, people who do that don't settle, don't win. They're not settling for Harbaugh not to be there for the college football playoff. They think...
Got to beat Ohio State, Mike.
I'm not certain I agree with them completely on the Ohio State piece, but I understand. They think in Ann Arbor, we better have our people together, and we've got a terrific associate, whatever, head coach who's going to be out there for Saturday, and we better beat Ohio State. Okay. Let's rally the state and beat Ohio State. I'm not against it. I don't know that I'm with it entirely.
Watch me roll my eyes on this.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they shouldn't have any trouble with Maryland tomorrow. That's a 21-point spread for that game. But, there's going to be big build-up to the Ohio State game. That is the game of the year during the regular season in college football. It almost always is, and it certainly is this year. 2 of the top 3 teams in the country going head-to-head for the right to get in the playoff because, as Tony said, the loser is most likely out. The loser doesn't get in the Big Ten championship game and probably can't leapfrog into the playoff. So this is an enormous game next week. And I think Michigan can win without Harbaugh, but, if they don't, this will be a story that they will live with forever, like the coach couldn't live without this cheating scandal. And, as Tony said, the Big Ten said that they don't have any direct connection to Harbaugh on this. This was like an out-of-nowhere suspension. Nobody really, anybody I listened to thought that it was coming. People who are in the know, like Pat Forty, said, that the Big Ten wouldn't do that. Well, they've done it. And where it goes, we'll have to see. Also, down the road, you've got James Madison. James Madison has made the move up to the big boy level in college football, what they call the subdivision to the bowl subdivision or whatever it is. The game's top tier is what they call it, what I call it. And as part of the deal to get into that, for 2 years, they would not be eligible for postseason play, which includes the conference tournament or the conference championship and any bowl game. Well, JMU is 10-0 on the year. They're going for 11-0 this week against Appalachian State. And they are ranked 18th in the country. And so now the Virginia Attorney General has hired a law firm representing the school to respond to the decision that was made by the NCAA not to grant a waiver that would allow them to play in the postseason. In a statement, Attorney General Jason Miyares said the NCAA's denial of a waiver demonstrates yet again abject failure to act in the best interest of the nation's student athlete. The NCAA has broken its institution, which it continues to make arbitrary and capricious decisions that are anti-competitive and have profoundly negative impact on student athletes, JMU, the Commonwealth of Virginia, collegiate football, and athletes as a whole. A little grandstanding there, but okay, he's going to go to court and see what he can do about this. I don't think anything can happen, and I'm really conflicted on this because JMU knew going into this agreement they wouldn't be eligible for postseason play. If they had won 6 games instead of 10, they would be technically bowl eligible. Would they be making noise about that if they had a 6-4 record now instead of 10-0? I don't know. But it does seem like there is a rule. They understood the rule going in, and now they're saying, well, we can't abide by the rule. This is Paul Feinbaum, who has their sympathy on yesterday with Dan Patrick, asked which side he sides with.
Are you on the side of the NCAA or James Madison?
James Madison. I know that this sounds contradictory, but they're two different situations. With James Madison, why can't the president of the NCAA, Dan, Charlie Baker, everybody loves this guy. He's the governor of Massachusetts. Why can't he just say, listen, I don't care what you guys are saying down the hall. I am making an executive decision and allowing James Madison to compete in postseason. They've earned it. And some antiquated rule that should have been changed. I am simply throwing out. I mean, the NCAA did this in the Sandusky case. They literally did not follow any of their own rules.
Well, I'm wondering. James Madison is playing everybody in their conference. They're the best team in their conference.
Yeah.
They can't compete for the conference championship, and they're not bowl eligible. It's just you're holding a hearing. Why hold a hearing if you're going to say you're going to say that this is the rule and we're not changing the rule?
Listen, I'm for rules, but there comes a point when you just can't be the headmaster in 1957 and suspend people because they looked at you the wrong way. You have to use common sense. That is not the case in Harbaugh, but it is the case in JMU, and it's just another example of why people hate the NCAA.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And the Penn State story that he referenced was with the Sandusky investigation, where the NCAA just took the Louis Freeh investigation by the FBI and said, yeah, we'll just go with this, and we're going to kick him out. So yeah, they have done things in the past that don't go by their bylaws. But in this case, I'm sort of leaning towards the NCAA. I really am. And I guess be convinced that JMU is getting screwed here. But once you enter into an agreement, that's the agreement. Now, does the agreement, does that rule need to be changed? Yes, I think it does. I think it is a stupid, antiquated rule. But it's a rule that JMU understood once they went into this level of college football. We'll see what happens with this big hoo-ha from the Virginia Attorney General, but I don't think that's going to lead them anywhere. Coming up, Eric Bieniemy with some cool stuff yesterday on this matchup with the Giants and his growing relationship with Sam Howell. As Humphrey Bogart said, this is the start of a beautiful friendship. We'll get to that. Plus, RG3 begging. Not a good look. Stay with us. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
All right, we got Tony on a Friday. That's at 11 o'clock. Also in the next hour, we call it Ravens Preview because it's usually previewing the Sunday game. But since the Ravens played last night and they won, we do Ravens Review. And joining us will be Kyle J. Andrews of Baltimore Sports and Life. I assume he was at the game last night. We'll talk to him about that. And at 10 o'clock, Bubba Jenkins, who has an MMA fight coming up shortly at the Wharf. We'll talk about that in his life. And I want to know if he has another name besides Bubba. I couldn't find any other name. Maybe that's his given name, Bubba. We'll find out. Anyway, Eric Bieniemy talks on Thursday. The coordinators at Ashburn talk. You get to hear from Jack Del Rio, the defensive coordinator, and Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator. And the news conference for Del Rio usually goes about 7 or 8 minutes. Bieniemy goes at least 15, and I think he went close to 20 yesterday. And he, says a lot of things that are somewhat cliche-ish. He repeats things over and over again. He likes this phrase, we got to make sure that we're doing everything properly. But he's very positive. He's very much behind his players. He's never going to throw anybody under the bus. And as the season has gone on, he's been always positive about his quarterback, always positive of what Sam Howell has done. And this was probably about as expansive as he's been all season about the growing relationship with Sam Howell and what he's learned about him.
I know he likes to throw the ball deep. So, and I joke and I laugh about that because I know at some point in time somebody's going to ask me a question about running the football. So I always receive my annual text message from Brad Childress about running the ball. So if you guys don't know him, Brad Childress, former coach, he was the head coach in Minnesota when I was there coaching the running backs. We also coached in Kansas City for a number of years. Great man, great coach. He made me a personalized hat that says run the damn ball. And because I used to wear him out and I used to wear Coach Reed out. And so now I've become a product of what they've made me into. So, but I just shake my head. But the thing that I've learned, just working with him is just watching the growth. The thing that I love about him, he's a quiet, humble, resilient kid. He never and I've said this before, he never gets too high, he never gets too down. He's more even keel than what you can ever imagine. He hates to lose, he hates to be wrong, but he's never going to let you see that frustration come out in him. And so in fact, he'll be a great poker player, but I'm enjoying the kid. And like I said, the kid, and I keep calling him a kid, I know he's a young man, but the kid has some stuff to him. And I love what he brings to the table, on and off the field.
And that's stuff that he brings. This is more from Bieniemy on that and what he has seen in just half a season from this quarterback.
He's a good kid. And like I said, anytime something bad happens, I have to remind myself, I got to stop and pause and say, you know what? This is probably the first time that has happened to him. Just like, I thought he did a hell of a job of breaking that run. He's out in the middle of the field. He's running. He's doing everything he can to help us to win. Poor kid gets held up and they take the ball from him. Obviously I'm hot, I'm upset, but I realize, you know what? This is the first time that it's happened to him. So do you want him to stop making plays? Nah, you want to encourage him to be himself and to continue bringing out that competitor in him, because that's the fire and that's the passion that we want. But now he just needs to learn how to finish it without the turnover. And so, the kid's doing a hell of a job.
He did have the turnover on the run. He has cut down on interceptions. He had the 4 against Buffalo, and he's had a couple along the way. But by and large, he's protected the football, protected it pretty well, and protected himself. He's completely healthy, which is really, when we get to this Giants game coming up, is the Manishtana Halayla Hazeh question here, which is what we say every Passover. Why is this night different than all other nights? Remember, at New York last month, Washington lost 14-7, and they played terribly. And Sam Howell got sacked 6 times in that game. Now, that was Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. Since then, the Giants have had a whole bunch of injuries, including losing Taylor and including having to now turn to a guy who lives at home with his parents, an undrafted free agent by the name of Tommy DeVito. The players are doing what they can to convince themselves that this guy is a legitimate threat. Remember, the Giants last week were 17.5-point underdogs at Dallas, and the Cowboys covered. They're only 9.5-point underdogs coming to Washington on Sunday, but they are not a good team at all. And this is Kendall Fuller with the hey, don't talk to us about Tommy DeVito. We think he's a really good quarterback.
No, he's an NFL professional quarterback. Anybody out there can win a football game, and that's the mentality that we're going with. And we're going to need all 11 guys on the field to be able to stop their offense and the quarterback and things like that. So whoever lines up there, they can. In the NFL, anybody can win you a game, and that's the mentality that we're going with.
Okay, and that's not a bad idea. Now this is a Bieniemy. Back to him on what has happened, what has transpired with this team since that ugly 14-7 loss at New York.
That experience in New York happened for a reason. And so it's made us a better team, a better unit. Now, obviously, we haven't shown it in the win-loss column, but we're growing, okay? Like I said, the things that we're taking, the necessary steps, it's the communication aspect. I'm seeing these guys hanging together in the locker room, talking about all the little things that can take place on game day. You know, when guys are coaching each other and talking about different things, that's when you know that you're coming together as a unit. And so the chemistry is developing, and it's translating onto the field. We just need to make sure that we can create our own luck by learning how to strain throughout the course of a 60-minute game. On top of that, making sure that we understand the importance of finishing. And so once we can get over that hump, I think, like I said, we can do whatever we choose and decide to, because first and foremost, we got a great group of young men. Second of all, there is talent, and everybody has talent, but now we just need to turn that light on and find a way to drag our ass across the finish line when it's all said and done with.
And look, this matchup with the Giants has been very weird over the years. One of their Super Bowl years, the Giants, they lost twice to a not very good Washington team. Might have been 2011 or maybe it was the one in 2007, I forget. But they lost both games and went on to win the Super Bowl. And while the Giants haven't been very good, they were a playoff team last year. Washington hasn't been very good, but the Giants have won 8 of the last 10. So anything can happen here. And this is one of those games where you're facing Tommy DeVito, and you got to say, man, if they lose this one, can Josh Harris and his group stay with Ron Rivera and his staff for the rest of the season? Do they throw somebody overboard? Do they say to Ron Rivera, hey, Jack Del Rio's got to go, you know, if he gets lit up by DeVito? I mean, this is like a nervous type of game for them. It's an important game if you're still hoping they're going to get into the playoffs at 4-6. Who knows? You know, maybe they will, because one of the things they got going for them is health. And you look around the league, including the Giants, starting their third-string quarterback. Look at Josh Dobbs starting for Minnesota. They're ahead of the Commanders in the standings. But that's the league right now. And Bengals, who knows? They may have to go without Joe Burrow. In fact, I just saw something on Twitter. There's there could be an investigation by the league. Burrow went out with what they're calling a sprained wrist. Went out in the first half, didn't play the rest of the game. And he was seen wearing some type of a wrap or device on his wrist going into the game and was not on the injury report. And now more than ever, that's important in the NFL because of gambling. They didn't put that out there. And the Ravens were favored by 3.5 in this game. They won by 14. Gamblers didn't have access to any information about a possible injury. If they knew that there was a previous injury going into this game, they did not put it on the injured list. And you know, even if he was going to play, they would say that he's got a wrist injury, but he's going to play. And it's not going to be a game time decision or anything. Nothing was on there. Nothing was on there about that, and he went out. So, effective gambling on the league. Now, the other day, let me see if I can find this before I play the thing that he said yesterday. When you had the news that Lamar Jackson was not Lamar Jackson, but Deshaun Watson was going to miss the rest of the year. People began looking around like, oh man, now what's going to happen? What what will happen there with the Browns? Who are they going to get to play quarterback? And so that created a big swirl. And I was looking at various names. I see today that Joe Flacco is going to be getting a tryout with several other quarterbacks that they're bringing in. But here it is. This is Griffin the other day where he said, where is that? Oh, here it is. Where he said, this was after we got the news that Deshaun Watson was going to be out for the rest of the year, needing surgery on his shoulder. Later that day, RG3 pops up on the Rich Eisen show.
Has your phone rang from the Cleveland Browns today, Robert?
It has not rang from the Cleveland Browns.
All right.
I've seen some beat reporters. Aditi even tagged me in a tweet asking how I'm doing, and my answer is I'm doing great. I feel amazing. ESPN's done a great job giving me opportunities, and I'm having a lot of fun doing what I'm doing right now. But I have had calls throughout the season. But I have not been called by the Cleveland Browns yet.
Okay. So, but none of the calls throughout the season have caused you to just, pitch your outstanding career that you're building right now.
Well, Rich, this, this is an opportunity that I could do for the next 30, 40 years of my life since I'm 33. And football will be there for me probably at least for the next 5, 6, 7 years. So it's got to be the right opportunity. I'm not going to jump at any opportunity. It's got to be the right one. And I'll just weigh those opportunities as they come in.
So that was 2 days ago. Apparently, he's had time to think. And Griffin now knows that Cleveland is absolutely the right opportunity for him. So on his Instagram page, this is what he posted yesterday about the Cleveland Browns quarterbacking job.
Has your phone rang from the Cleveland Browns today?
That's not the one. No. I set that up so well. Okay, this is from yesterday. RG3 on his Instagram page about the Browns job.
The Browns should sign me as their starting quarterback, and here's why. 1, at 33 years old, I understand the game better than I ever have in my entire career. I know how to slide, and I know when to slide, and that was a huge issue in my 8 years in the NFL. But I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm ready to showcase that I can get it done. But here's the thing. Deshaun Watson went 14 for 14 in the second half against the Baltimore Ravens, and he used his legs to go out and scramble and extend plays. Of those 14 passes, there weren't really any of them that you would say were $230 million worthy passes. All they needed him to do was manage the game because of them dogs they got over there on defense, starting with Myles Garrett. Well, guess what? I didn't do that. I can go out there and manage a game for the Cleveland Browns and help them go on the Super Bowl run that they want to go on. But here's the second thing. I still run a 4.340, people, and I can throw the football 80 yards. I train every week like an NFL football player so I could be ready for moments just like this. So they need to hit my line. And the third thing is, for me, if Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to be their guy and they don't bring me in to be the starter, then they should bring me in to be the backup so I can help him in the same ways that I helped Lamar Jackson. I learned 6 offenses in 8 years in the NFL. Nobody wants to talk about it, but learning a new offense has never been a problem for me. And I can help DTR with his decision-making, when to make certain plays, and truly to understand what he has to do as a quarterback with a defense like that on the other side of the football.
Yeah, God. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR, that's the new starter for the Browns. Look, in his contract with ESPN, it says that Griffin can leave at any time to quarterback in the NFL. And there's nobody stopping him from doing that if, in fact, somebody wants him. Nobody wants him. Nobody wants him. He keeps saying he gets calls. He hasn't revealed which team called. He's now openly campaigning for this job. Realize he hasn't played in a regular season game since 2020. That's 4 seasons ago, where he was Lamar Jackson's backup, and that was the COVID year. And he actually played in an afternoon game against the Steelers and got hurt. He got hurt. So, what are we talking about here? I mean, he said, oh, yeah, teams called me in mid-August. Really? They called you in mid-August? I don't think so. His career, it was 1 year. It was here. It was 2012. He was terrific. He was the toast of the NFL. Looked like he was going to be doing magical things for the next decade. Didn't work out. He can't play. He can't protect himself. He now says, I can slide. Somebody from ESPN needs to take Griffin aside and say, look, Bob, let's talk here for a minute. You're doing a great job on TV. You work hard. You go do the Monday Night Countdown show for the NFL. You do college football games on the weekend. You appear on all the various shows on the network. You got a great future in television. And yes, we do have a clause in your contract which says you can go play in the NFL if they want you. But for you to be openly begging, it's a bad look for you. This is not going to be helpful to your television career. And I think it's not going to be helpful for whatever minuscule shot he's got to get back in the NFL. Teams are looking at this and go, oh, God, that's sad. That's really sad. He's openly begging to come back. Now says he's learned how to slide. Why didn't you learn that when you were actually an active player? That was one of the things that hurt him greatly, is he was getting hurt all the time. The Haloti Ngata hit, which messed up his knee in his rookie year, that was because he didn't know how to slide. and now he says he knows how to slide. It even got to the point where, like, Ryan Zimmerman of the Nats was going to teach him how to do it. I mean, and to be just begging, just pleading, please. And, you know, as time has gone on, especially this year, he keeps pushing this narrative that he helped Lamar Jackson win the MVP in 2018. Has Lamar ever said that RG3 was a big help to him? No, I don't think so. This is just pathetic. This is like the washed-up ex-jock who sits around talking about the glory days and that he can still play. He can't still play. Yeah, he can run 4.3. Great. Go join a senior track circuit or something like that. But nobody wants you. They're bringing in Joe Flacco today in Cleveland for a tryout. Joe freaking Flacco. You know how bad he's been recently with the Jets? I'm sure there's a couple others bouncing around too. Colt McCoy has played more recently. Yeah, Colt McCoy would be a better choice right now than Robert Griffin III. He may be in that quarterback caravan. Who knows? But this is just, it's bad. It makes you look foolish, Bob. Bob, stop. Just stop begging for jobs. They're not going to bring you in. It's become apparent. This is now the third season where nobody's interested in bringing you in. It's not happening. And to go on Instagram with this whiny beg about, oh, look at me, I can throw it 80 yards and I can run a 4.3. And then to minimize what Deshaun Watson did when he says, would you say those are $230 million worthy passes? Well, he's playing with a broken shoulder at that point, and he did lead his team to victory. You want to minimize that? All he had to do was manage the game? No, he did more than that. He played really well. And there's no evidence that you can play really well, and there's particularly no evidence that you can stay healthy for more than a game. So, Bob, stop. Nobody's bringing you back. Anyway, next hour, we do Ravens review of their win last night against Cincinnati. Also, we'll talk to Bubba Jenkins, who's got an MMA fight coming up at the Wharf in a couple of weeks, and we'll talk to him about that and his career, plus more on the Commanders as they get ready to play the Giants on Sunday. Stay with us. It's the Andy Pollard Show, ESPN 630.
Right now.
We start at 9. We roll through 10, sometimes through 11, but not today. We got a Tony Show coming up at 11 o'clock today. 10:30, we do Ravens review today of their 34-20 win last night over the Cincinnati Bengals. Kyle J. Andrews of Baltimore Sports and Life will join us. Also, Lamar Jackson had some interesting things to say last night because he was hurt in this game as well, managed to play through it with an ankle injury. But, boy, you start talking to Lamar about injuries, he has an odd reaction, and we'll get to that. Also, about this game, and you don't have to look too far up the road to see what the Commanders might be one day, especially when they get a new stadium. It's going to be a while. It could be 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now. But twice the Bengals last night had to call timeouts in the first half because it was too loud. Too loud for the home team. It's a great stadium. It's a great organization. There's a lot of stability there. They don't fire people. The coach has been on the job for 15 years. They've won Super Bowls. And it's just the way football should be. And last night was a great night in Baltimore, with the exception of Mark Andrews suffering an ankle injury, which could put him out for the year. Speaking of injuries, and this is something to keep an eye on, the Bengals are under the spotlight right now because Joe Burrow went out with what they're calling a sprained wrist, but it may have been just an aggravated injury, and there was a picture of Burrow getting on the team bus wearing what appeared to be a soft cast before the game, and they did not put Burrow on the injured list. And when you're dealing with gambling these days, that's a big, big deal. And we'll see where the league goes with this, but I would imagine there'd be a fine, probably not a suspension. Also, got a cool thing happening on November 24th at the Anthem. The Professional Fighters League closes out the season, and among the fights is going to be one involving Bubba Jenkins, who is a bad man. That's his nickname, Bad Man, right? Do I have that right?
Absolutely, my man. Absolutely.
Why do they call you a bad man?
When you see me fight, the reaction to most of my fights and most of my moves is to look at me and look at your friend and be like, man, that's a bad man. So it was given to me as a nickname, and it was given to me as a respect towards Muhammad Ali. That's a bad man. My nickname was I'm a bad man. IMMA in memorial of Muhammad Ali is what it was for initially, and then it just
okay. Can we
realize that?
Bubba, can we call you, or can you call right back, because this is not a good phone line.
Okay.
So why don't you hang up and call right back, and I'll give some more details about that.
Problem.
Thank you. That's And one thing I want to ask him is Bubba his given name? Because if your parents give you the name Bubba, it's not like you can play the viola. You're sort of destined to do something like this. But let me give you a few more details on this. This is November 24th, and he is going to fight Chris Wade. They have fought twice, and they have split the two bouts. So this will be the rubber match between them. And this is going to be something that if you are an MMA fan, you're going to want to see. And let's see if we got a better phone line with Bubba. Bubba, you back with us?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Much better phone line. Okay, here's the question. Is Bubba your given name?
Yes, he is.
What's your given name?
Jesse.
Jesse. Okay, and why do they call you Bubba?
I was a 12-pound baby.
12. And you're a featherweight, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
So you weigh what? What do you?
145 pounds.
You weigh 145 pounds now, and when you were born, you weighed 12 pounds? Did they stop feeding you?
Yes,
what happened?
Well, everyone thought I was going to be 6'3", 6'4", 257 pounds, but I'm actually built for what the Lord built me for, so I'm 145 pounds at 5'8", and I'm exactly where I need to be.
Yeah. Do you have trouble maintaining that weight, or does that pretty much come naturally to you?
No, I mean, with a little discipline and a little correct training before fight, you got to do the right things to get down there and diet correctly. And, it's not a bad job. Not bad at all. No, that's a good way to lose weight. Although most of us wouldn't want to fight. So you do that, and you do it well. You started out as a wrestler, wrestling in high school and then wrestling in college. What made you make the transition to MMA? Yeah, man, I was the number one prospect. I won nationals for Arizona State in 2011, and the next biggest thing is either Olympics, worlds, and things on pretty much every big tournament that there was to win in wrestling, except for the big Olympics and the main. So at that point, the amateur lifestyle of wrestling was just getting a little bit annoying for me, as I was a Penn State wrestler and an Arizona State national champion after transferring from Penn State. And, I just got into the mixed martial arts world after realizing that was my niche, and that was something that, I was gifted to do.
How old are you? You're 35, aren't you? You're older, aren't you? 35?
Yes, sir.
And how long do you consider that this career can go? Can you go another 4 or 5 years?
Absolutely. My 18 wasn't their 18, and my 25 wasn't their 25, and my 35 isn't their 35. I'm as young as I need to be, and I'm as spry as the Lord will have me. So when the Lord says it's time, then we'll hang up the gloves. And, usually the next career of commentating or coaching and analyzing and things like that is, it's on the horizon. But right now, I'm just finishing off being in the finals last year, the championship, and, we fell a little short this year as we're coming up on another fight at the championship. But, we're back at it. And like you said, 4 or 5 years, we're going to be going pretty hard for the next.
Okay, last thing, you fought Wade twice. Chris Wade and you have fought twice. You split the matches. What did you do right in the one that you won that you need to do in this rubber match coming up on November 24th?
Yeah, I just stayed focused. The first time that I fought this guy, with all the excuses in the world there could be, the one that mattered was I was going through a divorce, and I'm a really, really hands-on father, and my ex-wife was deciding to all or nothing our situation. It was either all the children and she's moving out to Salem, or it was all the children come with me and they're going to stay here in Vegas. And, it was a very tough, turmoil time during my life. And I lost all focus. I lost all discipline. I lost a lot of things that could have made me the champion in that year. And then this April, there's a second fight this April. He beat me 2 years ago. Now I'm back. Now I'm focused. The whole situation with my family and my children are, it's behind me. And I just beat him from pillar to post. It was not even close. It was one-sided, like most of our interviews go. And, it was just my night.
Well, look, wish you the best of luck. I'm glad your family situation is straightened out, and this is going to take place November 24th down at the Wharf at the Anthem, where it's going to be Bubba Jenkins and Chris Wade in the featherweight championship, 145 pounds. And I think if you like MMA, you're going to like seeing Bubba, because he was a 12-pound baby that's now 145 pounds. Who else in the world can do that, right?
Absolutely. It's the rise, baby. It's the rise to the top.
Exactly. Good to talk to you. Best of luck to you.
All right, thank you.
The 2023 PFL World Championship, Friday, November 24th. That's a week from today at the Anthem. Tickets are still on sale through Ticketmaster, or you could head to PFLMMA.com. Prelims start at 5, with the pay-per-view starting at 8 o'clock on ESPN+. So that should be fun. All right, let's get to this. Jack Del Rio has his news conference every Thursday. Doesn't usually say a whole lot, and didn't really have much this time. But when they got to the Emmanuel Forbes play, where he was kicked out of the game for what looked like a routine hit, it was helmet to helmet, but didn't rise to the level of being kicked out of the Seattle game. I want you to listen to Del Rio as he begins talking about it, and then gets himself more and more fired up about what an egregious call this was. Here we go.
Penalty, I understood. I mean, it was deserving of a penalty. But the ejection for a first-time offense, on play 6 or whatever it was of the game, that was shocking. And the fact that he wasn't ejected by the officials on the field, he was ejected by somebody sitting in an air-conditioned room in New York. And that's troubling. I think that's troubling for the league, but they're going to have to work that out. But that's not a good look. I don't think that's healthy for the league to have those type of things happen. Emmanuel, young player, good player. He's not a guy that's like notoriously known for like headhunting people or stuff like that. So I did not think it was warranted. Wasn't my call, obviously.
Well, so he said some things that the league might want to give him a call about, and I don't know why they would be sitting in an air-conditioned room in November, but okay, maybe the room had air conditioning. But it's 2 weeks in a row, 2 games in a row that they're not getting calls on what looks like plays that might have drawn penalties, but that one certainly didn't rise to that. Now, this is the kind of game that's coming up here. That is going to be, I think, a little bit dangerous for them, because if they find a way to lose this, what has been basically a stable situation through the season. I don't think anybody really believed going into the year that Ron Rivera and his staff would save their jobs, that more than likely they would be fired at the end of the year. But this one is kind of game that if they lose it with 6 games still left to play, I don't know. Maybe you start thinking about making changes. Maybe Del Rio is the one to go because his defense has way underachieved this year. Some of it may be related to the fact that they are so pass happy. And we played some of the comments from Eric Bieniemy in the last hour in which he said Brad Childress, who was his former head coach when he was an assistant with the Minnesota Vikings, and they worked together with the Chiefs as well, has sent him a hat which says "Run the damn ball," and some of it may be related to Bieniemy's pass-happy attack. He said, "Hey, what am I going to do? Andy Reid made me that way." Well, he's throwing the ball more than Andy Reid, and Andy Reid's got the best quarterback in the game in Patrick Mahomes. But that could be part of the picture too. That they're not running the ball, they're not controlling the clock in any way. They're putting the defense back on the field. But the fact of the matter is they're near the bottom in points allowed, and they are not getting any kind of pass rush. The 2 tackles that they paid a lot of money to, Allen and Payne, haven't produced much at all, in especially since the 5th game of the season. And now they're playing without the 2 stud defensive ends who have been traded away. So it does not look like a great situation for this defense moving forward. And if you're going to move ahead next year, and I think it's very much a long shot that Eric Bieniemy is the head coach of the team, that there will be a different defensive coordinator here, you can be sure. And then the other scary part of this for them has to be that the Giants have somehow found a way to win 8 of the last 10. Even though they haven't been a particularly good team. Good enough last year to make the playoffs, so those were both close games. And, actually had a tie last year. So, they have had great success against Washington, even though they haven't been a very good team. And I don't think that Brian Daboll is necessarily on the hot seat. He was the Coach of the Year last year in the NFL, but this is a situation where you got to get on them while you can, and the Commanders are 9.5-point favorites in this game. We'll get to Ravens review coming up, but this was something I got into with people on Twitter yesterday, and this is Charissa Thompson. Charissa Thompson is moving up the chain. She's done very well at Fox. She hosts the pregame show, starts 11 o'clock in the morning on Fox. Then she joins with a segment on the Old Timers, pregame show with Howie and Terry and Jimmy and JB and not JB, Kurt Menefee does it now. She has had a very successful run since her days as a sideline reporter. And she was very successful first with the Big Ten Network, and then she moved to Fox, and now they're moving her into the studio, and she does interviews, and she's part of the crew, and she's done very well on television. She's excellent. But she was on the Barstool podcast yesterday, and this is what she decided to spill out.
I haven't been fired for saying it, but I'll say it again. I would make up the report sometimes because A, the coach wouldn't come out at halftime, or it was too late. And I was like, I didn't want to screw up the report. So I was like, I'm just going to make this up because first of all, no coach is going to get mad if I say, hey, we need to stop hurting ourselves. We need to be better on 3rd down. We need to stop turning the ball
Pressure
over.
the quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. and do a better job of getting off the field. Like, they're not going to correct me on that.
Right.
So I'm like, it's fine. I'll just make up the report.
Make it up. Now, it's 10:15 on Friday morning. This has been out there for 17 hours or so, 17, 18 hours. I'm surprised she still has a job. I don't see how you can keep her because she said that she lied about these sideline reports. And while that's not earth-shattering news, that doesn't, ruin the credibility of the National Football League, ruins her credibility completely. And what she's saying there, these sideline reporters, it's a bunch of garbage. They were supposed to talk to the coach when they're coming out of the locker room at the half, but sometimes we don't get to them, so we just make it up. I made it up. Now, there is some history in this, and when she says, I haven't been fired for this in the past, she did talk about this before. In 2022, She on her Calm Down podcast, which she does with Aaron Andrews, she admitted making up sideline reports, and Aaron Andrews said she had done the same thing. And this is what she said. I was like, "Oh, Coach, what adjustments are you going to make at halftime?" He goes, "That's great perfume you're wearing," Thompson said. I was like, "Oh, bleep, this isn't going to work. I'm not kidding. I made up a report." Okay, so she's saying here, and there's no excuse for a coach saying that. So she didn't mention the name of any coach. So there's that. But that doesn't excuse breaking a code of ethics that used to exist. Maybe it doesn't anymore. But when I was learning about journalism, coming up, learning in the business and going to school, going to college, studying journalism, we were told that doesn't work. So you have a job to do. And your job is to get information out of the coach. Now, if he was harassing you, and that's sexual harassment, if the coach says that's great perfume you have on, then you know you're within your rights to actually, you know, I don't know if it would be out of line for her to come back to the announcers, to the play-by-play guys and say, "Yeah, I'd like to get a comment from the coach, but when he came out of the locker room, he asked me about my perfume." You could do that. Now, that might have ruined her career. I don't know. But to say that she made it up, she's throwing all these other reporters into this bin of, hey, you know, we don't get what we want. We just make it up. And you could say, well, you know, what's the big deal? It's just, and she's right. Most of the time out of the locker room, they say those kind of things. Got to be better on third down. Got to get the defense off the field. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. But sometimes there's a life and death situation, as there was last year with Lisa Salters when Damar Hamlin collapsed and died on the field before being resuscitated. And she, as an experienced reporter, she worked for ABC News for a while, did her job and found out what she could. There wasn't much information available, but you had confidence that there was a real reporter down on the field who could give you information. Now, curiously, we haven't heard from Aaron Andrews, who is still a sideline reporter. So her good buddy, Charissa Thompson, has just said that they made it up, make things up from time to time. Are we to believe now that Aaron Andrews from time to time makes things up? Because she hasn't weighed in on this. There have been a number of other sideline reporters who are just disgusted with this, including Lisa Salters. And you're getting things like from Tracy Wolfson, who says this is absolutely not okay, not the norm, and upsetting on so many levels. I take my job very seriously. I hold myself accountable for all I say. I build trust with coaches and never make something up. I know my fellow reporters do the same. Molly McGrath said, this is not normal or ethical. Coaches and players trust us with sensitive information, and if they know that you're dishonest or don't take your role seriously, you've lost all trust and credibility. Some of the others have said, you know, we get information before the game. We do our research. We do our work so that if we don't have anything from the coach, we're able to report something on the game. This is terrible. Now, Mike Freeman wrote a column today in USA Today. Mike Freeman, African-American, longtime reporter for the NFL. He's now a columnist with USA Today, and he said it could about sideline reporting. It could be light and fluffy, but the good ones, the really good ones, they give you something, and they do. And he said the main point being that no black journalist could get away with this without significant career-altering repercussions. We all make mistakes in life. I certainly have, but the leeway for something like this with black journalists is measured in millimeters. There were dozens of journalists of color, if not more, making this point. There's a staggering amount of privilege in Thompson's remarks. And he goes on to say, this is a firing offense. It's not even close. And I agree 100%. Now, she did. Rex, did you watch any of the prime game coverage last night?
No, not the coverage. Okay. I watched the game.
You didn't notice her as part of it? I guess she was, right?
I actually tune out when they go to that team. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. But if you're going to have a sideline reporter, and not all of them are women, by the way. Armin Katayan, who's an award-winning reporter, did it for a long time with CBS. I don't think he still does it. The original sideline reporter was a man. It was Jim Lampley. And it was the idea of Roone Arledge, who's one of the great geniuses in television. And Roone had the idea for college football that he was going to hire actual college students to be down on the sidelines during college games. And he had a bunch of tryouts for guys, and he didn't find anybody who was actually an undergrad who he felt could fit in. But Jim Lampley, who was a grad student, sent something in, and sure enough, he got the job and was the original sideline reporter. And the job is to report on injuries, to report on things that are maybe confusing down on the field. It's to gather information, get it out quickly, because there's another play coming. It's not that easy. You just think, and some are looking at Charissa Thompson saying, oh, well, she's just eye candy anyway. Well, I mean, that's sexist too. And there are some women who you might find attractive, but they're also great reporters. And I would put Tracy Wolfson in that category. I think Erin Andrews does a good job. But her friend, her buddy from the podcast, just said, yeah, it's a bunch of BS. The coach comes out of the locker room, spews out a bunch of cliches, and if we don't get what we want, then just make it up. Just make it up. And I don't know if Fox will address this on Sunday. A lot of these things, it takes a while for them to react to the reaction, and I think that's what Fox is doing. There's probably executives in offices right now trying to figure out what to do and to see how much this has legs going into the weekend. The Harbaugh story, that petered out yesterday when Michigan just threw in the towel and said, yeah, we're not going to fight it, so that's not going on anymore. And, okay, maybe there's some NFL stuff to talk about, and maybe there's a little bit of a controversy about the Bengals not putting Joe Burrow in the injury report when he had some type of wrap on his hand going into the game and then got hurt in the game, that kind of thing. But this is to me a big deal. I know people on Twitter attack me and they said, it's just a bunch of nonsense. It's all entertainment. Who cares? Well, the people who do it care, and the people who do it well care. And occasionally, fortunately not often, but occasionally you have an actual life and death situation to report on, which Lisa Salters did very well last year during that Bills-Bengals game. And for someone like Charissa Thompson to come out and say this is such garbage that we make it up, or at least I made it up, that's not helpful to anybody who does their job. And now every time you're looking at a sideline reporter, you're probably going to wonder, well, did she get that from the coach, or did he get that from the coach, or is it just making it up? Is that just something that they're making up? Now, if in fact there was a coach who asked Charissa Thompson about her perfume when she wanted to get information about the game, shame on him. She should out him, and he should have been suspended for that. But this is just, again, you might say, old man, get off your lawn. Journalism ain't journalism anymore. You can say all those things. But what she did was she crapped on people in her profession, many of whom had to fight to get to that point. And I know Susan Waldman. I've known her since 1987. And she was the original radio beat reporter for a team. First to do it in sports, as far as I know. Did a great job with the Yankees. Took a lot of abuse from players, managers, things like that. Fought through it. Fought for people to have jobs like Charissa Thompson had and like Erin Andrews has. And now here's Erin Andrews. Here's Charissa Thompson just saying, see, if we don't get what we want, just make it up. Not good. Not good at all.